So just a quick show of hands. Which one do you guys think is a better build plate? This one or this one? Yeah. So, one thing that I noticed was that on Cura 4.2, there was a Crucial mod that allowed you to have, different machines around the build plate. And it seems like it got taken away after. So I think I'm running 4.7 now. And I really wanted to have these around there. And, it was very hard to find on the internet. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to make this happen. So first thing you're going to want to do is open your browser. Make sure you close Cura while you're doing this. You're going to want to open your browser, and then you're going to want to download a build plate file. So this is one that's just the build plate, and this is one that's the actual machine. And all of these are from Thingiverse. I'm going to include the links, but basically they're just STL files, so they're fully editable, and then you can also make your own if you want. Like if you had a lack enclosure or anything like that, you can make your own. And I was working with the Ender-3 and the Ender-5, so those are the ones that I'm going to include. But this should work for any printer. So once you download those, you're going to want to open the meshes file in your Cura. So let me show you how to get there. So you go to your C drive, and then you go to Program Files. Then you go to Ultimaker Cura, whichever one you're using. I'm using 4.7. Then you go to Resources, and then you go to Meshes. And then what you're going to do is all the files that you downloaded, you're going to throw them in here, the ones that you want to use. And just make sure you keep track of the names, because those names are going to be important. And if you want to change the names, you can, but just make sure you keep track, like I said. The next thing you're going to want to do is go into the definitions file, because these are the files that you're going to be editing. And it's the same way that you get there. You go to your C drive, Programs and Files, and then Ultimaker Cura 4.7. Then you go to Resources, and then you go to Definitions. And once you get here, what I suggest is that you go ahead and make a copy of the file you're going to edit. So like you see here, I have Ender-5, and then I made a copy, and you literally do this by just hitting copy, and then you paste here. So I made a copy, and then I changed the name to E5, and I suggest that you do that just to keep track. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is just hit edit with Notepad++. And if you don't have Notepad++, you might want to get it. It's just probably the easiest way to go about editing JSON files in this case, or just any file. But the next thing you're going to want to do is just, take a look at this file and kind of see what's going on here. But what I'm going to do for you is actually include the definition file for the Ender-5, which shows basically it's the way to get the machine to show up on there. There's some files, some certain printers on here, like the Ender-3. You don't have to do much work. You just have to change one value, and then it shows up. But for the Ender-5, you actually have to do a lot more. So I'm just going to include that whole file, so you can just copy and paste it in there. But I'll go ahead and show you what you do on the Ender-3. So if you were on the Ender-3 and you just wanted to change the build plate, or any STL like this, if you see something where it says platform is visible true, and then it just has something .stl, all you have to do is go into your meshes file, make sure you have the right name for it. So as you can see, mine has, let's see what the name of that file is. Creality Ender-3 with machine. So yeah, I definitely named this one. So you'll see Creality Ender-3 with machine. So just make sure you have that name right. And then just what I do is I sometimes verify it, but I know it takes a long time. So you can either open it with actual Cura, or you can just, not verify it. But what I like to do is I just kind of copy, and then I'll paste it right there. And then it'll show up, and then you just hit save, and that's it. You're done for the Ender-3 or any printer that's like this. But for the Ender-5, when you open up your .json file, and this is why it's important to make a copy, it'll look like this, and it'll say visible as true. And if you try to do the same commands like platform at the bottom and then put the STL in, for me it didn't work. For you it might work. You know, other people have better luck. But what I did is I just changed this whole JSON file, and I changed it to something like this. So, and this is closer to what the Ender-3 has. And on here, I just changed it to, like, let's just change this whole thing to the name. This is okay. So let me explain this. This is the name of how it's going to show up on Cura. So whatever you want the name to show up on Cura, like some people, they want it to show up as Ender-5 or Ender-5 Pro. As you saw, like the profile on mine was Ender-5 test, and this is that same file. But I named this file E5, so I'm going to make a whole new printer with this. I'm just going to say, let's name that E5, and then you're going to want to match both of these values. So if you name your printer something else there, you're going to want to name it something else here. And then the other thing you're going to want to change is, of course, the STL. And this is only if you take my definition file and paste it in yours. But my file is named actually Ender-5 Prusa Slicer, funny enough. But that's how it's downloaded from Thingiverse, and I didn't change that file. So as you can see, to match, it'll say Ender-5 Prusa Slicer. And if you change your name, you just change it right here. Just make sure they correlate. And then after this, you're going to want to hit save. And of course, you're going to need administrator privileges. So, and just hit save. And then when you're done with all of this, you can just hit close. And as long as you don't have any errors, that means you're probably good. So I'm going to take you through exactly to show you how to make sure it worked. And this is also important to see because if you had custom G codes or custom start G codes or custom end G codes, like me, I have a BL Touch. It was actually really important to make a copy of the printer just because, you know, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to have that same start G code when you start another, when you make a new printer. So let me show you. Like, let's say I wanted to add a machine, non-network printer. And then if you scroll down to, you put it in the Creality base folder or whatever folder you guys put it in. You should see where it says Creality E5 or whatever your file name was. And then let's say you added this. So as you can see, like this is the custom start G code that they include. It's an Ender-3 start G code. And for me, I have a BL Touch, so I'm going to have to change that. So as you can see on here, it worked. But the main thing is I'm going to have to change. So let's go to my Pro. And then I'll take the start G code from here. And I'll show you guys how to do that too. Let's go to manage settings, machine settings, copy. And this is the only thing that changes on my printer. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, go back to my E5, Ender-5, do the same thing. And then this time I'm going to paste. And as you can see, it changed it. And then you just hit close, and now you're all set. So if you have a custom G code, you're going to want to make sure you do the copy. It's not really going to be an option because if you don't, you're going to have to rewrite that. And I know for me, I spent a lot of time making that perfect because with the BL Touch I have set up, it just it's kind of wonky if you don't have it set up perfectly. But everything in all, that's pretty much it. That's all you have to do. You just have to change the definition file, make sure the STL files are in the meshes folder, and it'll work. I suggest making new printers and either deleting the old ones or keeping the old ones. As you can see, I only have one Ender-5, but I have three different Ender-5 platforms, or four, just because some of them have the stock look and then some of them don't. And that's just for testing purposes. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's all you have to do. And like I said, I'll include all of the links on to the Thingiverse STLs, as well as the link to my definition file for the Ender-5, just to make it a little bit easier for you guys. But that's everything. I hope this helps.